Hey guys, what's happening? What's going on? It's BJW, and I want to welcome you to another tutorial. This episode, we are taking on the item elevator in 1.9. And what might you ask, are we doing with the item elevator in 1.9? Well, it worked great in 1.8, right? You'll say that, I would agree. But then, of course, Mojang decided that they had to go and f*** it up and fix it. Using my air quotes on my fingers, which is what Mojang does a lot. And, of course, you know, granted, they fixed a lot of things, but of course, why do they have to break something that we all use so terribly much? You know, there's probably hundreds and hundreds of these things on servers across the land that are all going to be now broken when they upgrade to 1.9. So my task, my goal, my efforts have been to fix that problem, and I think I licked it. I think it's solved. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about why 1.8 is broken, how 1.9 is going to fix it, and then we're going to grab some materials and we're going to fix it. Once and for all, or at least for now. All right, let's get started. Oh, and you can ignore this redstone. This is just some clocks to make the dispensers work for example purposes. But this is the blocks and materials we're going to need to do our both a brand new one or a retrofit. So you'll need some blocks. I'm using iron sandstone to match the world that we're in, and some glass, just to be consistent. And then you will need a couple of signs, some packed ice, depending on what you're working on. You could use a few pieces, or you might need a lot, totally depending. A couple of buckets of water for sure. From the redstone side, you'll need sticky piston, a wooden pressure plate. Actually, you'll need 2 sticky pistons. You'll need tons of trapdoors. That's kind of the main bit of our mechanic to make this thing work. A couple of pieces of redstone. Boop. Redstone repeater, a couple of those guys, and 1 single solitary button. Tiny buttons. Anyway, so here we are. I'm going to describe real quick what happens with the 1.8, of course, and everyone probably knows this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You throw your item into the water stream, and it could be coming from a slime farm, it could be coming from anything, dispensers, and it would come down and go past these fence posts. That last fence post was connected to its blocks on the outside, and it would force items to go up a bunch of solid blocks all the way up into the first air block. Would a lot of times would have water in it in our item elevators, and then that would carry it off to other chests, other dispensaries, item filters, stuff like that. Again, worked pretty solid. Had no problems. Does not work in 1.9 anymore. So the goal is to recreate the mechanic of this in a way that's pretty simple and uses the same footprint if at all possible. And now the important part of this is that these solid blocks are the mechanic that allows those items to move up. It's because it couldn't exist in a solid block. It has to go to the next one and just continues on up. So there was a couple of tutorials that I looked into, one of which was posted on Reddit, and then there was a response in there that had some other ideas. And the 2 bits of that I really want to share, and of course I'll put the links down in the description, is that first of all, using trapdoors to kind of mimic that same mechanic actually works really well. The way that they did it is they actually had a button down below, and then you'd have a piston. The block would be lower, it would have a piston with a trapdoor on it. And when you activated it with a button, the piston would extend, the trapdoor would extend, and it would push the items into that really narrow hitbox that is the trapdoors, and then it would travel up. I think the problem that made it a little bit squirrely is that they wouldn't necessarily get on just right all the time, and so they would kind of miss, or for the most part, it did a really good job. It certainly got, for the most part, I think, all the materials up where they needed to go. But it was manual the way that they had it designed, and they did provide a clock that would allow it to be automatic in something like a slime farm or something like that, but it required that clock to be running all the time or to be maintained. And so I really wanted to try and solve that problem, because I don't want to have to either manually hit it or rely on an expensive clock that might be problematic on a server. So, but the core idea of it was the trapdoors, and I had actually been doing this with with ladders, and this works with ladders as well. The hitbox just isn't quite as big, and so it is a little bit harder, and I've found that it's not quite as consistent, whereas trapdoors, I haven't had a problem yet with them. So, but the important part of it is that what we're using the water stream, and it's coming all the way into this chamber, the chamber, the block that's going to carry our items all the way up, so that it can push the items all the way back up against. We put that in there. Oh, oops! I didn't want that to actually shoot that up yet. I'll have to go up and get that in a second. Let's use that. Get in there. Here we go. So you saw how it's see how the items are coming all the way to the back. They're up against that back wall, and they're in line with the trapdoors. And that's the critical part of making this work. That whatever you do, if you choose to do a different method, you got to make sure that those items are all the way up against the back part of that block to make it function. So let me see if I can get my piston back. Thank you. I'll replace my glass real quick. So that is the important part of that mechanic. And then over here, what we're doing to actually activate this piston, and again, I have a similar mechanic to that other one. It's just set up a little differently. There is a piston down here that activates the, I'm sorry, the piston is activated, pushes the ice block up, and it turns the water off. I can actually use this over here to show you. And it pushes the items that are here up into the bottom of that trapdoor, and that's what starts the elevator essentially, and it will continue all the way up as long as we have trapdoors. I've gone up I think 60 blocks, and actually one of the problems is it's too fast. I think it seems to pick up speed the higher it gets, and so if you get really high, you may actually have to add an extra source block of water to help slow it down, or a thicker roof to keep it from popping all the way through, because I have had that happen a couple times. I think there's ways to fix it, but it does happen. So that's the basic mechanic. And then we have a pressure plate. What am I, B-dubs? Pressure plate that then activates or turns off a redstone torch, which will turn off this dust, which deactivates this. This is a inverted falling edge circuit that will then turn this on, repeater, and then activate the piston. And it works pretty well. So let's go ahead and just grab a couple blocks here. I think I have some in here. Yeah, there's some already in there. Let's do this, just so we can be clear that it works. 16. There we go. We got 64 in there. So we're going to turn this on. I'm sorry if this is going to be a little bit loud. I'll turn it down in post-production. But here you go. You can see how fast these are coming in and how this is working. And so even though there's some that might be waiting back behind when this thing is up, the water stream will go ahead and push it all the way up against that and get it lined up like it needs to be. And you can see how fast that's popping up there. And I was actually looking at a way to make these, because they will pop up 10 blocks. If there's nothing here, it would go up 10 blocks high, to see if I could have it actually skip that gap and collect it on the other side. And I haven't found a way, and it really wasn't necessary. It was just kind of a fun little task. So we had 64 go up, and you can see there's no more down in here, which I will admit that sometimes there will be a couple that will collect here that'll just jump past that last pulse, and they might sit there. I've never had any more than 6 sitting there, and I've gone through like 3 stacks and had 0 sitting there, and I've gone through 3 stacks and had 3 sitting there, but the most I've ever had is 6. And even then, if it's like on a slime farm or something like that, this is going to be continuously running, so you won't have to worry about it too much. 64 blocks, and I had 1 extra. So the other thing that I think is a good idea to install in here, and we'll put it in over there, is just a manual button. So if you are AFKing somewhere and you get done, and before you go, you just want to double check and make sure that the system's been cleaned out, or if there's something down in there, or if you're transporting something important and you want to make sure you don't lose anything, there's always that one last manual push if you really feel like you need it. I think that is the quick description of how this thing works. Let's go ahead and get into what it might be like to retrofit one, and then we're also going to build up. I think we're going to go up 20 blocks and 40 blocks and show you how the whole system works. All right, let's start first with the retrofit process. So you would probably come down this center block within that 3x3 area and go ahead and take out all the blocks down to where the fence posts are. Take those fence posts out and go ahead and take down a couple more layers here, just to make sure everything's kind of cleaned off. And then take out, this will be the block that you come down on. Make sure that you're clear down at least 1 block below your ice channel here. So let's do that, and then we'll take out 1 more down so that we can get our sticky piston in. So you get your sticky piston in there. Go ahead and clear out a couple blocks so that you have access here on this side. And we'll come back to that in a second. And then we'll complete our bottom part of our ice elevator here. You can go ahead and actually make those solid blocks. They don't need to be glass. It's totally up to you. I'm going to make mine solid. And then let's go ahead and complete up 2 more rows here. You have to leave the center bit open now, of course. And that actually pretty much takes care of that. Now we're going to come in with our wooden pressure plate. Oh, you know what I did forget? We forgot our packed ice. You got to put that piece of packed ice right there on top of that piston, sticky piston. So, and then from there you go 1, 2, 3 full blocks back, and then on the fourth block you place the pressure plate. Then you come down here and you take your redstone torch, you put it on that bad boy, and then you put a piece of redstone dust down there. Now we're going to come in here and take out that block, put in a sticky piston. And let's get this out of the way. You're going to need another block on top of that. Let's say go ahead and take that block out right there. You're not going to need that. And then in a repeater, put it right there. You're going to go to 3 to start with. You may have to toggle that to 4. It's going to take a little bit of playing with it to see how it works best for your system. Looks like I did have it set on 4, so we'll go ahead and set it on 4. But that is variable. 3 or 4 is probably where you're going to set it at. You're going to time it for whatever it is that you're running through the system. And then let's go ahead and we got a button in here. Yep, let's put our button right on there. And then we can go ahead and actually close this in if you want to. Totally up to you. Just to kind of clean it up a little bit. And that should be it for the majority of the retrofit. Now we can go ahead and put our water sources in here. And put our water source in here. You can come back and set a sign in here if you need to. Just whatever the continuation of your water source is, you want to make sure it gets at least all the way to the plate. You don't want to have a gap in right there. You probably actually even could have a gap if your spacing works out such, but I think you're safer doing it that way. I didn't want to mention this. I think I showed it earlier, but I'm going to be a little more clear about it. If you hit F3B, that will show you the hitboxes of your items. And I had meant to mention this earlier, and I think I forgot, but we'll show that in there. And the way that you can tell that this is working properly is that those items have a hitbox around it. You can kind of see that white box. And look how it is right up against the glass. If it wasn't, we could show you maybe like with one right here. Put it right there. You can see how it's kind of sitting on there. It's not all the way up against. There's no reason to push it up against a wall of any kind. In fact, I wonder if I could even throw it up against there and have it stay. Yeah, that does a pretty good job. I think there's a little bit of a gap there. But that water stream is pushing that thing as far up against there as I can, and that's how you can tell. Let's go ahead and get that back out of there just in case I need it. And there we go. That's the major construction part of it. It should be working now. Let's drop that in. There it goes. The only reason it's not pushing anything up is because we don't have our wooden trapdoors on it, which we're not going to do just yet. We'll go ahead and build this up. I'm going to take this up 20 blocks and then build our platform, and then I'll show you how that's built, and we'll give it a quick test. All right, we've got our last few trapdoors to place here, and of course, if you're really skilled, you could jump and place them all the way up. I'm not going to say that I'm necessarily particularly skilled, but I was able to do it that time. But then you bring your trapdoors all the way up till it's flush with the bottom. And so my little tower here, just to kind of give you a visual, those red dots are every 5, so 5, 10, 15, 20 blocks from the water surface elevation, or the water channel elevation, brings us into here. So, and then on a lot of other channels, on the previous ones, you would cap 1 block above the water channel. Here you actually have to go up 2. You need a little bit of extra room in the way that you're going to do it. In fact, I did something wrong on here, so I'm going to go ahead and redo it while I'm talking to you guys. One of the things that I've realized in doing this is that when you have your items that go into this channel, remember on the previous other versions, you'd want to have a water channel that came and then pushed the block all the way up against one side and then had it travel down one side so it could get past the fences. This isn't any different in that there's a benefit to having it come down one side or the other. And why you would decide to do that is when those blocks come up, they actually jump out of the water a little bit. And if the water is flowing in one direction, they'll jump through the water and come over just a little bit and drop. So what you want to do is the side that you're going to have your water channel going to your dispensers or to your item filters or whatever, you want it to be the opposite way of the L in the water channel. So that makes sense, I hope. So the water's coming this way, it pushes it up against this side, and then when it comes up the elevator, it'll pop through and then come over a little bit. Because if it's on this side, it has further to go, and there's a better chance that it could drop down short of landing on the other side. So in this case, I had it on this side. I had started building over the same way I did over there, and so that's why I had made that mistake. I'm going this way up against this edge, and so my water channel, I'm going to want it to go to the right. And then let's go ahead and get our water source in here now. So you're going to want to set the water source first to start with on that side. So it is going this direction. And then, of course, this can continue on. I just have it set up right here. And so it's going to push the items into this corner, and I can grab it through the corner of the glass as a quick test. But start here, and then what you can do is do some quick testing and make sure that this works before you kind of commit to being finished, to having it be finished. So let's see, let's go and drop 64 in here, switch our piece over there, and get it going. So as you can see, it's going along that right-hand side, and that's what's going to line it up to go up. Now I just want to come up here and make sure, yep, see how they're kind of flipping out the top right there? Is it done? It's still coming up. You can see how it kind of shoots out the top like that. Oh, well, it doesn't make, because I left the hole there. That wasn't very smart. Let's do that. So we might have some that are coming out of there, and that's why we're doing our testing. That means that this thing is going just super fast. Look how fast those things are going up. So that's why we're testing right now. Because then, and honestly, this is what I expected to see happen. I just wanted to be able to see that it was going to actually work this way. So there's two things that you can do to fix this problem. And I'm not 100% sure this one actually does a lot of good, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway because it does seem to help, is making sure you have a solid block up on top. So don't put half slabs up here if you can help it, because that does seem to make a little bit of a difference. So let's get that done first. We'll put that one right there just to keep it clean. And then the second thing we need to do is you need to break out this trapdoor and make sure that there's a water source block in there. So we'll break a couple of these guys out. Break that trapdoor. Place the water source right there. And then close that off. And so my testing showed me is that for every 20 blocks or so, you need to add a water source. And so when we go to 40, my expectation is I'll have to add another water source down one. And that seems to be enough to stop the items from shooting through the top or creating a problem. All right, so let's get a new set of blocks here. 64 to make sure we have a nice even number we can count easily. And let's see if that goes. Here, I'll get these off to the side here. There you go. All right, but just look at this thing. Look how fast these things are going up this. Thing is so fast. That might be what if you see it doing this and you're like that's a little bit too slow, you can change that timing from 4 back to 3, and that'll help us go a little bit faster, I think. So we just want to wait until we have all 64 blocks done. Let's turn this off, and then we'll go up and see if we get all 64 out of there. Go ahead and drop those 9 just in case. Oh, come on. All right. 64 blocks. So that solved our problem. That extra water source is enough to slow it down just enough, and to add a solid block on top like that. All those things mixed together really help solve the problem. So I think that's it for this 20. Let's go ahead and take it up 40 and see if it holds true with us adding that second water block down below. Yes? Yes? Can I do it? I don't know if I just did it right. Oh no. Let's jump up here. Ah! I made it. All right, so here we go. We're up at 40 blocks. No problemo. We'll see how this thing works using the same methodology that we use below here. So we'll start a water source on that side. Oh, I forgot I have to do that. So you have to put a block back into here to get the water source going over. Then you can break it out and put the water source back. So there, now that looks exactly like the one that we had below. I didn't demo it completely. I just demoed enough of it out of there so that you could kind of get a sense of we are double the height now. So this should work pretty well. What I'm expecting is going to happen, as we kind of talked about earlier, is that I think some of the blocks are going to shoot through the top. Even with the solid thing on top and one water block, I think we might need to add that second water block. I can't believe I just did that. Give me a second while I repair this. Alright, don't ask me how I did that. Let's give this thing a test. So I just dropped 64 stone into there. And here's what I'm expecting is going to happen. All 64 of these are going to travel up just fine. In fact, let's go ahead and make one test or one change here just as a test. Let's go ahead and make this 3 ticks just to see what that does. Additionally, I think it's going to shoot. Someone's going to shoot through the roof. Some will come down here, but most of it will go up into there. We'll have to see what happens here. Let's give it a quick test. There we go. You can see all of them going in. There we go. They're shooting up. Look how fast these things go up. Can you believe that? So you can see them shooting up through. And so this also illustrates what I was talking about earlier. As it comes up through, it jumps up, and it comes just slightly over, enough to land on that edge and come over. You can see that if it was coming up on this side, it wouldn't make it all the way over. So let's hear, we'll wait just a second, and we'll see if all of these come through or not. All right, we don't have any more coming up right now, and you can already see some are sitting up there on top. Let's see how many we got here. So 55 there, and so we're missing 6. So my guess would be is that there's going to be 6 down here on the ground somewhere. Do you see them? I don't see them anywhere. Oh, there you go. There's the 6 that sometime get stuck in there, right? Let's grab those. Yep, so there they all are. So changing that to 3 ticks did have an effect. It actually, on 4, we never had that problem. So we're going to go ahead and change that back. Let's stop this for a second. We're going to make those 2 changes. I'm going to set this back to 4 ticks. And then we're going to go up and add our second water block again, like we had mentioned last time. You're going to have to do the same thing that we did previously. Let's go ahead and bust this out. And take out that trapdoor, put in another water block, and make sure that it is a source block. And there you go. So now we have 2 source blocks to equal 1 for each of the 20 coming up. And hopefully those 3 blocks is going to be enough to slow all these items from going through the top. So let's go ahead and drop in 64 again, and let's set it going. All right, this time we have it closed in, and here they come up, and you can see them all hitting that upper barrier there and stopping and coming back. So far, it seems to be working pretty well. I haven't seen any pop to the top yet. So that 3rd source block, or basically we have got 2 source blocks, and then we have another source block over here. But it seems to be doing the job. So we're going to let this finish off real quick here. It should be pretty close to being done. There's 64 blocks. So there you go. That shows that our theory works, and adding those water source blocks seem to do the trick. So I think that's about it. I apologize for this being such a long tutorial, but I feel like there was a lot to go through, and it was more than just building it for you. It was describing to you a little bit how the mechanics work so that many of you guys can go out and come up with even better solutions than I have. I would appreciate it. Make sure and share them back. Leave comments if you've got problems. Maybe even leave a like, perhaps subscribe if you haven't yet. I would very much appreciate it. And thank you all very much. We will see you guys in the next tutorial or next Minecraft video. See you guys later. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.